Welcome to another edition of It's Still Real to Me. Everything Zaslow Show 2.0, including our pro wrestling podcast, is brought to us by our title sponsors, Anidjar and Levine. Accident attorneys, 800-747-FREE, 800-747-3733. If you're involved in any kind of an accident, a hit and run, a slip and fall, motorcycle, boating, you're dealing with a personal injury, you go where they're going to treat you like family and get you the money that you deserve. Anidjar and Levine, accident attorneys, 800-747-FREE. That's 800-747-3733. Title sponsors, everything Zaslow Show 2.0. My pal Joey Levine joining us here as it is a Sunday morning. So we have Forbidden Door tonight. We have AEW Collision from last night. We got a lot to get to here, including we're going to do our top five, each of us, our top five Money in the Bank cash-ins, as Money in the Bank is next week in London. So we got some fun stuff to get to. Good morning, Joey. How are you?
Doing well. I'm doing well. Excited to do a little bit of a preview for Forbidden Door. And since it's going to be a 17-hour show, this preview lasts for a long time, even though we're doing it day of.
Yeah, so we're gonna do a little preview toward the back end of the show today. But I guess it's, like last week, am I ordering this? Am I definitely? I guess I'm definitely ordering it. Like, what else am I doing? See, here's the problem. There's nothing else going on tonight.
Yeah.
There's no other sports going on. Succession is over, so there go my Sunday nights. All right, I don't have that to look forward to on HBO anymore on Sunday night. So what's going to wind up happening, even if I'm not super pumped about Forbidden Door, I'll be sitting around tonight and I don't have anything good to do. And I'll be scrolling on Twitter and see everyone commenting about Forbidden Door. It's like, why am I not watching? So yeah. I'm obviously ordering it now tonight.
I'm excited about the show. The show itself is going to be like the matches are awesome. Like, it's a stacked show. It's just too stacked. And actually it's not too stacked. It's going to be a great show. I wish they would just start it like an hour earlier or something.
What time does it start?
The main show starts at 8:00.
Yeah. Yeah,
and there's 10 matches.
Cool.
There's 10 matches on the show.
Yeah, just think about that. Like, if they start at 8:00, and you got to figure one of them is going to be on the pre-show.
No. There's 4 matches on the pre-show. There's 14 matches.
So 10 matches. I mean, yeah, you're talking. That's easily a 4-hour show. It has to be.
At least. I mean, it could go well. I feel like it could go well past midnight. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big commitment.
That's a lot.
It's weird, too, because in a day and age where everything is so, everything is so fast, everything is quick, we need all information right away. It kind of seems like AEW is going backwards in that direction. Like, I don't think anyone wants 10 matches I don't think anyone wants to sit through that many matches. And it's funny because WWE kind of pivoted away from this a few years ago, where they've really made an effort to make their shows 3 hours, because they were going so, like, a little bit after WWE Network came out, because I think there's a little bit of like time spent listening involved with WWE Network at the time, and their shows were long, and then they really pivoted and started cutting back and making the shows 3 hours, and I gotta tell you, it's a lot more enjoyable. It really is.
And Money in the Bank's a perfect example of that. We'll get into it a little bit, but like Money in the Bank's they're setting it up just like that for it to be a concise show. Because there's matches that you would assume are pay-per-view matches that are going to be on SmackDown this week.
Well, and you know what they probably learned when they started doing all the NXT takeovers? Takeovers had like 4, max 5 matches, and you'd get in and out between 2.5 and 3 hours, and it was awesome. Like, 5 matches, great show. Keep it moving,
Yeah, that's also the benefit WWE has of having a show every month, too. Sometimes, too.
Yeah.
And AEW, I guess, in fairness to them, they have to, like, make this worthwhile for New Japan. You got all these guys coming over for this one show.
Yeah.
They're trying to load it up with as many New Japan wrestlers as they can to make it worth having this show once a year. So I get it. It's just, I have no problem with it once in a while, and particularly with this show. I just wish they would start it earlier. It's just having to go. I mean, I know I sound like an old man, but man, watching It's not even that it's late. It's that it's 4.5 hours straight of of wrestling matches, which are fun, but it's hard to sit through all that.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And they announced, it's like, come on.
All right, so we'll circle back to Forbidden Door, and we'll do all that good stuff. But let's start with AEW, and let's start with Collision last night, actually, because it's fresh on our minds. And for the second week in a row, thought Collision was a great show. Thought it was really good again last night.
Yeah.
And I'm skeptical how they're going to be able to keep putting together a great show. I wouldn't judge the first show because, number one, you got CM Punk's return, but you also had the return of every other wrestler that's been out. But last night, I thought was a great show. I really enjoyed last night's 2 hours. And of course, the major talking point is the reaction that the Toronto crowd gave CM Punk. Like, that's by far the biggest story. So if you didn't catch it last night, FTR, Ricky Starks come out, big pops. Everyone loves them. They're in Toronto. That's, of course, where the show is tonight. And it's the first show that CM Punk has been back for that has not been in Chicago, right? Because last week's Collision was Chicago, and also Dynamite was Chicago, right? So first show and he's getting massive reactions, obviously, in Chicago. And look, it was a mixed reaction. Don't let anyone tell you that it was all boos. It's not. That's stupid. It was a mixed reaction. But the boos and the negative reaction for Punk last night was pretty visceral. It was a lot of middle fingers. It was a lot of yelling. The folks who were against CM Punk last night were really loud about it.
Yeah, and again, I'm gonna have to harp on this a lot because now they have they have two shows with two announced teams. Kevin Kelly, or that's his name, Kevin.
Yeah,
Kevin Kelly and Nigel McGuinness handled it great. Like, yeah, you're hearing that correctly, people. Listen to that. And then they, not only that, but they did what I think the other team doesn't do a good job of, is they reference back to Collision last week where they said,
yeah, this isn't Chicago anymore.
This isn't Chicago. And CM Punk said in his promo, some of you are going to like me and some of you are going to hate me. And we're hearing some of those. Like, they did such a good job of setting this table for why the crowd was booing. And I immediately was like, holy shit, this is how it is. This is how it's going to be, huh? And you know what? It makes sense. AEW is totally leaning into it. They're tweeting about it from their accounts. That being said, to your point, Denise Salcedo, who's big on wrestling Twitter, I guess she was there. Mm-hmm. And she tweeted in the moment.
She's there with Busted Open, and
she tweeted in the moment that it sounded like there was more cheers in the building than boos.
Right. It was definitely super mixed. Like, don't let anyone tell you, oh my God, the crowd is booing. Like, it's all boos. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
It was definitely mixed. Very mixed.
It was mixed, but on TV, the boos came across a lot more.
Well, and what stood out to me most is a lot of middle fingers. You had a lot of middle fingers that were being thrown at Punk. So, if you're watching on TV, the booing, the negative is standing out more. That's for sure. And also because I don't know if it said I wasn't expecting it, but I guess maybe I didn't put too much thought into it, what the reaction is going to be. And so it was a little bit shocking when he came out and it happened. But I'm going to tell you something. This was best case scenario, because if it would have been, if it's going to continue to be all cheers like it was when he first came back a year ago, or if it's going to be all boos because the crowd right now is really unhappy with him. If it's going to be mixed, to me, that's the best possible scenario, because every week it becomes a thing. I wonder how the crowd's going to react this week to CM Punk. I wonder what this crowd is going to do with CM Punk. And it forces him when he's on the mic, and not that he can't handle it, it forces him when he's on the mic to really play off the crowd and lean into whatever their reaction's going to be. And we don't know what their reaction's going to be every week. I thought that crowd reaction hopefully everyone else can take a cue from Toronto. I thought that crowd reaction last night was best case scenario for CM Punk moving forward. I think that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's fun. But I think ultimately, to me, it was good. And the more I thought about it as I was watching it, it's a Canadian crowd.
Uh-huh.
They don't go there often. Maybe, I don't even know when the last time they went to Toronto was. And if I'm if I'm in Toronto and I know AEW is barely ever going to come here and there's only 2 nights here, and the night I'm there, because this guy's in the ring, Kenny Omega's not here, I would be pissed too. I'd be booing the shit out of that guy too. So I think that goes into the reaction, but it'll be fun to see what the crowd reaction is. But eventually, if this doesn't all lead to something with them in the Elite, won't get old quick. Don't you think it'll get kind of old quickly? Because the reason people are booing, they're not booing because they don't like CM Punk. People like CM Punk.
I think there's part of that. I think part of it, they don't like his behavior. They
don't like his behavior because of it was the Elite. Right. I mean, if he had a backstage altercation with the Guns, everybody would be cheering him.
Right.
They wouldn't care.
Right.
But it's because it's the Elite, and everybody loves the Elite. So eventually, it's like, yeah, this is good, and he's going to play the heel when he needs to be a heel, and he'll be a face when he needs to be a face. But at some point, it's going to have to lead. And it's so, I will say this, I still don't know. It's very hard to tell how real and what's real and what's not.
Totally.
Right? It's very hard to know.
Totally.
It seems like the heat is real still. Like the Elite was not on TV this week.
Well, yeah. So let me ask you about that.
They were on one backstage pre-taped segment. They were not on any show this week.
Yeah. So let me ask. So Wednesday Night Dynamite was in Chicago, and so the Elite were just not on the show, right?
They had a pre-tape like a backstage.
So
pre-tape.
You're telling me, leading up to Forbidden Door, AEW had 3 TV shows.
4?
What's the 4th?
Rampage.
Oh, okay, going back to last week. Oh, okay.
No, this week. Well, okay.
I'm including that.
Oh, I'm going back to Collision last week.
You're going back to Collision. I don't want to count Collision last week because we don't have this impression that the Elite's going to be on Collision. So the week leading up to Forbidden Door, AEW has 3 TV shows, and Kenny Omega and the Bucks are not on any of them. That's wild.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Yeah, the implication, unless you listen to the dirt sheets and the reporters and stuff, the implication being it's because CM Punk's on every show.
Can you imagine a week leading up to whatever huge WWE pay-per-view, and you got 3 shows, and the Bloodline is not on any of them? The whole week leading up to the pay-per-view. That's crazy.
Yeah. No,
and that's where it's like, it seems real, and I always love when the lines are blurred in pro wrestling, but like, holy shit, we can't figure something out for these guys to they don't even need to be in the ring together. They can't be in the building together.
Yeah. I mean, they're leaving it to, first of all, like I guess you don't need a ton of on-screen build for Kenny and Will Ospreay because the story's built in. Kenny beat him but the thing is, a lot of the American crowd probably does not know the backstory of Kenny and Will Ospreay. Like, not everybody watched Wrestle Kingdom. Not everybody knows that Kenny beat Will Ospreay for the IWGP US title.
Well, and that, of course, is my main issue with Forbidden Door. Like, it's going to be great tonight. I love wrestling, period, even if I don't know backstory. So it's going to be great. I know a lot of wrestling. I know a lot of wrestling history. And they'll be introducing guys like, last night on Collision, they introduced that
Naito.
Yeah, that Naito. And Jericho's like a frame, like, I don't know that guy.
Yes, but again, this is why Collision is. I'm in 2 weeks in, and it's such a to me, it's a much more pleasant viewing experience because the announcers actually explain.
Oh yeah, they gave me a backstory.
They said but Naito was the only person
from coming out.
I know, but the last person to beat Chris Jericho. Why is it important that this guy's here? The last person to beat Chris Jericho in the dome.
He was the last one to beat him for the Intercontinental Champion. Like I said, JPW has an Intercontinental Championship.
Right. Yeah. In the Tokyo Dome. Like it was like they did a good job of explaining why he's important.
And that dude, by the way, taking his good old sweet time getting to the ring. I mean, oh my God. Like,
but I got to tell you, there's some of these guys when they show up on AEW, and I know it's not probably the same way for everybody, but some of them show up and I'm like, man, it sucks that we're never going to get like real runs with these guys in the US. Like when Okada shows up, like when he showed up on Dynamite, man, I was like, this guy is awesome. The coin drop, the the music, the coin drop, you get the reaction, and he comes out. He comes off as such a star.
Yep.
Like, man, this guy would be good no matter where he is. And it's just him, even Naito on Collision. I was like, man, this guy would be cool to have. Look at that. He's a weirdo. He's dressed in this big ass suit. He's got the eye. He does the eye thing.
Yeah, like, he's making all kinds of faces before he got into the ring.
Even the guy who's with Jericho, Minoru Suzuki, who's like 70 years old, that guy's crazy too.
Right. Like, at least I've gotten to know Suzuki, you know?
Yeah, because he's been around and he had the thing with Moxley. And,
yeah.
But I mean, the thing with so with the Elite and Kenny and them not being on, like, not only do we not really have much of a build to Kenny and Will Ospreay, unless you know about that build, which I guess AEW has shown they don't really care if you don't know. They expect you to know. They expect you to be a wrestling fan. But we've essentially left the final week of the build for the Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite to Eddie Kingston and Moxley.
Now, like, that's happening tonight, right? They are doing that tonight?
Yeah, but Eddie Kingston, so it's the Young Bucks and Adam Page, and then Eddie Kingston joined them to be part of this, and he brought in the Stone Pitbull, Tomohiro Ishii, as their fifth guy. But like, so really the story of this match is Eddie Kingston and Moxley, like the Blackpool Combat Club and the Elite.
Also Eddie Kingston and Claudio. It keeps. He's right. Claudio.
But the match really has become about Eddie Kingston and Mox.
Probably.
Like the Elite have become secondary, and mainly because they're just not around to like help build it.
It's crazy. They had 3 TV shows this week, and the Elite are not on any of them.
Well, Kenny for sure. Did the Elite? No, they didn't. I was going to say, did the Elite come out at any point in that segment? No, they didn't. They weren't on the show. Yeah, it's so weird.
Wild.
It's exactly what you said. It's like not having the bloodline be on any
entire week. An entire week leading up to SummerSlam, the bloodline is not on any show.
Or Money in the Bank. We're gonna have Bloodline Civil War, but the only way we're gonna build it is prepackaged backstage segments.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Yeah. A couple of the really quick things about Collision last. I'll tell you, Collision's a good show. Are the Guns officially in Bullet Club yet?
Yeah, I think that's what that was, right? That's what the end was.
I hope that's what that was.
I think that's what it was. I mean, it seemed the way Jay Light looked up, he was like looking up at the sky and he put the hand up.
And the way the crowd reacted when they did it.
Yeah.
That
and people online
are
like
saying, an initiation.
Yeah, it seemed like that means that they're in.
I'll tell you, I never used to think very much about the Guns. And now when they're coming to the ring, I look at them now and I'm like, I don't know. I feel differently about them now. They feel like a big thing now.
We're going to do a little different, just a quick tease. We're going to do a little bit, Big Dirt's going to be a little different today. And I got Guns are part of it.
I'm very impressed with the Guns. They have really grown on me.
It is hard to be hated if you're good. It's hard to be hated if you're good. And like we said this a couple weeks ago when we thought the Guns were joining, where it was like, man, they're perfect for the Bullet Club because everyone loves the Bullet Club, so they would hate these guys.
Right.
It's not looking like it anymore.
MJF having no time for Tanahashi last night. I dig that. And I also dig that he's like, I'm going first because I don't want to be here any longer. So I'm glad that it's first. Look, get me excited. The start of the show. I'm gonna have to buckle up for 4+ hours. So I like it that that's at the start of the show.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good, and it's also good for like Tanahashi. There's the 3 guys, 4 guys. If you don't know New Japan, the 4 guys to watch on this show from New Japan are Okada, Ospreay, Naito, who came out last night, and Tanahashi's like, Tanahashi's like maybe the top guy. It's him and Okada, but so starting off the show,
Tanahashi, doesn't he have the all-time record for most world championships?
I think it's
New Japan.
It's him or Okada. I don't know
I think it's Tanahashi.
But he's like a legend.
Yeah,
that's like Okada and him is like Cena Orton almost.
Yeah,
like. It's like who's one, obviously Cena's one in terms of popularity, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's fun that's opening up the show. I like it. The show's going to be good. It's just going to be so long.
All right. So let's circle back to that. So we'll do a little Forbidden Door preview.
The only other thing from Collision. Well, 2 things. The Andrade House of Black stuff's great. I dig it. Mm-hmm. I think it's great. and Miro has renounced his god, his gold, and his beautiful wife.
I know. Yeah. And also, really quickly, Christian Cage. I mean, he thinks he's the champion.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Thinks he's the champion, which is perfect. It's really
that was
good.
Great, and the way he
got the crowd to turn on him.
And he called out Cody.
Yep.
That was
absolutely
good.
Yep. Yeah,
good.
Christian thinks he's the TNT champion, which is really great.
That's fun.
Yeah, and to avoid any kind of confusion, if Luchasaurus could be jealous, he then puts Christian on his shoulders and parades him around. Yeah, it's really good stuff. All right, let's do a little bit of WWE here, and then we'll circle back to that.
Real quick. We got to point out, there's two things from AEW before we go to WWE for good. Adam Cole, MJF being a tag team is great. Dynamite.
Yeah, that's right out of the WWE playbook, but I mean, that's going to be fun. They're going to be in the finals. I don't know if they're going to win it, but they're going to be in the finals. It's going to be, and their segments are going to be awesome. Yeah.
And then I got to shout out, Rampage had a segment that I think, did you see any of Rampage this week?
I did watch it this week, and it was good.
So the Acclaim segment's that was like a historic segment. I don't think people realize
that was wild. Yeah,
I don't think people realize how historic that segment was. So the Acclaim are out there. Harley Cameron comes out,
who I did not recognize who the hell she was. It took me a while.
Yeah, I don't really know much about her, but she comes out with two guys in masks.
She's QTV, and it didn't even register to me.
Right. So she comes out, and she is telling the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass how she wants to join the group. They need a girl. She can sing, this and that. She starts rapping. By the way, pretty good rapper. It was kind of crazy. So she's rapping at Billy Gunn, and then she's rapping at Max Caster. And then she goes to Bowens, and she's like, it's pretty clear that you're into me. Yeah. We could start a family, blah, blah, blah. And Bowens cuts it off and goes, I don't know if you've been kicked in the head too many times when you're a kid, but I'm gay. And the crowd loses their mind.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And starts chanting, he's gay, but not in a derogatory way, in like a supportive way.
Yeah, it was awesome.
On national television, in wrestling.
Yep.
Like a he's gay chant that was like supportive of a gay wrestler who just was like, I'm gay.
I was shocked.
I was just like, holy shit, this just happened on wrestling of all places. Like, can you imagine even 10 years ago, even maybe 5 years ago, if a wrestler was in the ring and was just like, I'm gay. The reaction from the crowd would have been like, what the?
They would have hated him.
Or it would have just been like silence because no one would want to be like the one who's, it would have been great. But I mean, it was just I thought it was a pretty historic moment for wrestling.
Absolutely. When he said it, I was like, I don't think they've ever acknowledged that on television.
Not overtly, I don't think very overtly, they've never said straight up. I think they've it's been implied in some of the stuff they've done. But no, I don't think anyone's straight up been
yeah, it was awesome.
Gay wrestler.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought
so
that
up. That was a great moment.
So let's do a little bit of, I don't have a ton on WWE here today, to be honest with you. I didn't think there was anything earth shattering, but I do want to bring up
there's some news. There's some news, news and notes from the week, but nothing crazy.
Well, so I hate getting wrapped up in this kind of stuff, but I have to bring it up here. All right. And when I say I hate getting wrapped up in the behind the scenes stuff, it's because we don't know what's true and what's not true. There's so much bullshit out there, but we do know that there were certain matches planned for SmackDown. And we know that because they announced it, all right? We also know it because there was a story. There was a build to it. I mean, Io Sky put Bayley in a Money in the Bank, qualifier match to kind of get paid. There's a story there between Bayley and Io Sky and them being upset with each other. And Bayley was supposed to fight Shotzi on SmackDown with her entrance in the match on the line. And that was one of several matches that were just scrapped with no explanation. They advertised obviously that one, which is kind of a big deal. And then you also were supposed to have Cameron Grimes and Baron Corbin. All right, whatever, but they announced it. Mm-hmm. And then the other one was there was supposed to be Santos Escobar versus Butch versus LA Knight. So it's kind of like the three of you are in the qualifier match. Now let's, do a thing. And they scrapped that as well. And instead it was LA Knight versus Ray. Right. But no explanation as to what happened with these matches, but specifically no explanation to Bailey and Shotzi. And that kind of that, like, what the hell happened there? That shit sucks. I hate that.
Well, you know what the internet says.
Well, yeah, everyone says, okay, Vince McMahon had his hands all over the show. Yeah. Like, maybe. I mean, that's a really
they were saying that on Raw too.
Maybe
they were saying that on Raw too, because on Raw, supposedly, Ciampa was supposed to was supposed to answer Seth Rollins' open challenge, and they scrapped that and had him fight The Miz so he could have a win.
I actually like that better. I like that change better.
Sure, but again, it just goes back to they're saying that he was making changes on Raw too. The Bailey Shotzi one was the only one to me that I was like, man,
like we're just not acknowledging it.
And also, like we're doing that. We scrapped that so Charlotte could have a squash match against Lacey Evans. Like, we probably didn't need it. I'll tell you this: happy we didn't have the triple threat. Love seeing LA Knight get a win over Rey Mysterio. I'm cool with that. And what do I need? Cameron Grimes and
you don't need it. It's whatever.
But yes, not. But how do you acknowledge it?
I don't know. But why'd you get rid of it? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean the Bailey Shotzi one they should have acknowledged because there was a segment.
It's part of a story.
Part of the story. The other ones I don't think you necessarily needed to say anything because they weren't really part of a story. I mean, it wasn't like but yes, I agree. The Bailey Shotzi one was strange. I just didn't know. I mean, other than being on Twitter and people saying Vince is making changes again, but the show was I thought SmackDown was good.
I thought it was too.
The Usos, they're the biggest baby faces in WWE now.
I told you last week that I really think we're going to get to a place where Jay specifically is just a monster babyface. And
but I also think it's interesting that he's still there's an interesting dynamic there still though, because he's out there and he's still like towing the line. He's like, we still love you, Roman. We'd still do anything for you. And Jimmy's kind of like, no, we don't. It opens the door for Jay to turn on Jimmy again and go back. It keeps the door open. It keeps the door open for something like that. I don't know how that would work, but I love it. And here's one thing that I read a little bit too much into it.
SmackDown's in London next week, right? Like they didn't tape it, right?
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's in London.
Cool.
They are really harping on, Jay is really harping on Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman's the problem. Paul Heyman's right. You let Paul Heyman in. He's not family, this and that. Jay was the one who accepted Sammy. Okay. So we that still opens the door for them to be like, yeah, well, you let Sammy in. There's
okay.
For Roman to be like, well, you could say what you want about my wise man, but it's your fault that Sammy infiltrated our you could still bring Sammy back in. There's so much shit with the bloodline. It's so fun. It's so good. It's so good.
I want to go back to Raw from Monday night where number one, because we were wondering, wow, Trish, Raquel, they could both be in Money in the Bank. Trish, we knew was going to win though, and it ends up being like Becky's stupid, and Becky gets Raquel disqualified. So now, Becky is dealing with a 1-on-2 situation, and that's fine. But we also learned that, all right, their way of getting out of Raquel, Raquel losing that match is, and I dig this. So now you got something at least meaningful with the women's tag belts. So Raquel's got Liv back, and they're going to go after the tag championship. So I dig that. I hope they don't just
Rousey and Baszler unified on SmackDown.
Yeah, and I'm fine with them unifying it because I don't think there are enough women's tag teams across the board to have multiple tag team titles. But I hope that Fire and Dawn don't just go away because they are clearly excellent.
That was my first reaction to that. I was like, man, they're just going to go. They're being around. They're not going to do anything. I hope not too, but that was my fear when I saw that. I was like, they're gone. They're not going to do anything.
So Logan Paul is in Money in the Bank. It doesn't do anything for me, but I totally understand what WWE's reasoning is going to be when Logan Paul wins Money in the Bank.
I disagree.
I mean, really? Because he gets millions of views on YouTube, and he gets to just carry around that briefcase for months.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true.
For months. I mean, he could hold on to it for 6 months, getting views on YouTube with the WWE Money in the Bank briefcase right next to him. And that's the mainstream shit that WWE loves. So that doesn't do anything for me, but I understand what WWE's logic's going to be.
Okay, I didn't think about it from that standpoint. I thought my original plan was all coming together. Logan Paul enters the match, Paul eliminates or costs LA Knight, and then loses, and then LA Knight, who we all know is already a face, everybody loves him. He can't be a heel much longer.
He's still a heel. He's still a heel.
LA Knight versus Logan Paul at SummerSlam, the mega star versus the viral star.
Ooh, that'd be good, right?
And then I think you still have
you can still do that while Logan Paul has the briefcase.
And then you still have Priest win it, and you continue that angle. But to your point, yeah, you could do that, and then eventually you could have LA Knight win the briefcase from Logan Paul.
How cool would it be if, because Damian Priest had been my pick, even though I want LA Knight to win, Damian Priest had been my pick.
Yeah.
How cool would it be if talk about the story writing itself. Damian Priest wins Money in the Bank. You already have Fractures in Judgment Day, and Finn Balor wins the World Championship from Seth Rollins. And now it's not going to happen. But like, if Seth Rollins had been the champion for 3 or 4 months already, that's a legitimate scenario. That's a great story. There are already fractures between them, and now they're walking around right next to each other all the time, with Finn becoming all kinds of paranoid. That's a great story.
It would be a great story. It would.
But you can't do it with Rollins being champion.
But you just sold me on Logan.
He's going to win. He's going to win.
You sold me on it because of him having the briefcase.
Millions of views for 6 months.
Jake Paul is fighting Nate Diaz in a boxing match.
And he's on Showtime pay-per-view holding the briefcase.
It's going to be on pay-per-view, and he'll be there with the briefcase. Like,
he's going to win. It's going to win.
It makes too much sense almost.
And I'll tell you something. Like, yes, we want LA Knight to win that briefcase. He doesn't need to win the briefcase. Like,
he doesn't, but I still think there's a world where they can still feud, and maybe he wins the briefcase from him at some point.
Maybe, but that briefcase a lot of times is to elevate, and LA Knight doesn't really need the briefcase.
Yeah,
he's hot
Logan
as fuck.
Logan Paul can't be WWE champion.
I hope not.
I mean,
I hope
that
not.
would be crazy.
Yeah,
that would be crazy. That would be crazy.
Yeah.